But he's not just God, he's God with. So Jesus is God with, and when you think of the word with, that emphasizes not his true deity, it also emphasizes his humanity. And Christians kind of neglect this part, I think. We're really apt to promote the deity of Jesus, and that's good because most people don't accept that Jesus could be divine. But what Christians oftentimes do is that they downplay this importance of Jesus being truly human, a human nature. When John says in John 1, the Word was with God and the Word was God. So he distinguishes between God and the Word, Jesus, and at the same time he identifies the two in the same breath that Jesus is God. And then later on, I think in verse 12, he says, and the Word, the Logos, Jesus, became flesh. In other words, he took on flesh. He became human being. And he dwelt among us. And we've seen his glory. Glory is of the one and only who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. So when you talk about the incarnation, I know it's a big word. It just basically means an enfleshment, taking on flesh. And when Jesus took on flesh, it's not as though the flesh part absorbed up all the deity part. And it's not as though the deity part kind of squeezed out as he took on the flesh. It's none of that. It's not as though his humanity was put into a Superman suit or an Iron Man suit where he could do things that normal human beings couldn't do. It's none of those things. New Testament teaches, early church councils all established that Jesus was truly God and truly man. Some people say 100% God, 100% man. And that, I don't like the way they put that. It sounds contradictory. What they mean, though, is that he had a true human nature. Everything that it means to be human, getting tired, having a soul, personality, all the things that make us human beings were part of the nature, the human nature of Jesus, while at the same time he had the nature of being divine. Everything that it means to be God, all-powerful, all-knowing, eternal, all of those things were preserved in the divine nature of Jesus. And it's not as though he communicated his divine nature to his human nature. So it's not as though, okay, human Jesus, I can't understand some things, and so I'm going to borrow some of my understanding from my divine nature and bring it on over here. It wasn't any of those things. Both natures stayed completely intact. Jesus was truly human, truly God. And that means that Jesus is God with. He's God with. He emptied himself, Philippians 2 says. What did he empty himself of? He didn't empty himself of power. He didn't empty himself of divinity. He emptied himself of glory, of exaltation, of reputation. He was God. He was the eternal God. He had all glory and honor given to him as the Son, and yet he emptied himself. He exposed himself to human criticism. He became of no reputation. He came to earth as a slave, someone who was spit on, mocked, beaten. He came as a baby. He gave up everything so that he could be God with. God with. That's the beautiful reality of Christmas. What we celebrate at Christmas is that the eternal second member of the Trinity, the God on whom the universe depends, the universe to which we look up at night and by which we're overwhelmed, that universe depends on God who created everything. That God, that glorious eternal God, forever took on flesh so that he could put himself into a permanent form of withness. So he could be with us. And that's incredible. This is unlike any other thing that God has ever done.